If you listen closely, not with your ears, but with the quiet part of your mind, you might sense it. A faint hum, a pulse that never stops. It is not your heartbeat, not the sound of blood flowing through your veins. It is something smaller, something older, a whisper written in electricity because inside you right now, billions of tiny storms are flickering into life and fading again. Each spark, a thought. Each pulse, a decision. Each wave, a breath of the living mind. We tend to imagine electricity as something mechanical, a cold, metallic force that flows through wires, drives engines, powers lamps. But the electricity of life is different. It's not a tool, it's a language. Your brain doesn't store light, it speaks in it. Each neuron, a living cell, carries within its thin walls a small ocean of charge. Across its membrane, ions drift and dance. Tiny particles with positive and negative hearts, forever trying to cross the boundary that keeps them apart. They can't, not freely. And in that tension, that eternal push and pull, life finds its rhythm. If you could shrink yourself down, 1,000 times smaller than the smallest grain of dust, and drift inside a single neuron, you'd see a landscape both alien and familiar. There are no wires here, no circuits, just thin membranes, soft, shimmering walls that breathe and shimmer like living silk. The air, if you could call it that, is filled with floating atoms, tiny charged spheres rushing in every direction. Sodium, potassium, calcium, the elemental chorus of being. Every one of them carries a spark, and as they move, they write the story of your thoughts in invisible lines of current. From the outside, a neuron seems quiet, just another microscopic shape, a biological ornament in a universe of cells. But inside, it hums. Every moment, ions slip through special doors, channels so small that billions could fit into the width of a hair. Each opening and closing changes the balance of charge, a fraction of a volt. Yet together, those tiny shifts build the architecture of awareness. Your memories, your emotions, your dreams, all of them are built from these invisible tides. The silent current doesn't roar, it whispers. It hums gently through you, carrying every flicker of your mind. We call it the membrane potential, the quiet tension across a neuron's surface. Outside, more sodium. Inside, more potassium. A deliberate imbalance, the cell's way of storing energy, ready to release it in a flash. It's like holding your breath before diving. A pause, a charge, a potential waiting to become motion. When that moment comes, the gates will open, the ions will rush, and thought itself will ignite, a brief spark leaping down a thread of living matter. The energy that begins in silence will travel miles of neural wiring in a fraction of a heartbeat, carrying meaning from one end of you to the other. But that's the beauty of it, the way life hides its fire in stillness. Every thought you have begins in quiet tension, a difference of charge smaller than a blink of lightning. And yet from that difference, from that contrast between inner and outer, between calm and motion, emerges everything you are. You are built not of stone or steel, but of balance, of constant movement beneath a calm surface. That's what the body truly is, not a collection of parts, but a system of delicate imbalances holding each other in perfect rhythm. The heart beats because ions move. The muscles contract because charges shift. The mind dreams because electricity breathes inside its cells. And when that current stops, When the ions fall still, the world inside us goes dark. So life, in its simplest truth, is electric. Think about this. Every neuron in your brain, all 86 billion of them, is part of this silent storm, each one glowing for a millisecond, sending its message forward, then falling quiet again. No conductor stands above them. No single neuron leads. And yet, from their collective rhythm arises thought, emotion, memory, consciousness itself. How does chaos create harmony? How do random sparks become music? That's what this journey will show you, not through equations or definitions, but through images and motion, through the slow unfolding of the living current. For now, just breathe. Imagine that each breath charges your cells a little more. Each exhale, a wave of ions settles along their membranes, aligning in calm. You are an ocean of charged life, and your thoughts are its tides. The same energy that fuels stars flows, in miniature, through your mind. It is the same force, only smaller, quieter, and infinitely more intricate. The silent current doesn't just live in you, it is you. So tonight, as you listen, you'll travel through that hidden world, through the currents that whisper beneath your awareness. You'll see how the smallest motions create meaning, how energy becomes memory, and how silence becomes thought. Close your eyes. Feel the pulse beneath your stillness. The current is there, soft, endless, alive. This is the story of that current, the one that hums quietly inside every neuron you've ever had. The current that never sleeps, the current that is life. In the depth of silence, if you could drift down, past the world of air and water, past the smallest dust and deepest cell, you would reach a place of silence so complete that even time seems to hold its breath. Here, at the border between life and the void, lies a single neuron. Soft, translucent, alive, a bubble of consciousness floating in the sea of your brain. To the naked eye, it's nothing, a shape so small it could hide on the tip of a needle. But to the quiet, listening mind, it's a cathedral of motion, alive with invisible storms. You stand before its surface, the membrane, a thin film, no thicker than an idea. It separates the inside from the outside, the me from the not me. On one side, calm. On the other, chaos. Between them, balance. Molecules drift, collide, part again. Tiny electrical charges, positive and negative, organize themselves into shimmering layers, like dancers in a choreography older than thought. The neuron doesn't see them. It feels them. It senses the pull of energy, the difference between inside and out, a tension that hums softly, waiting for release. This is the resting potential, the first whisper of electricity in the brain, a quiet imbalance, a tension that defines life itself. If you could listen, you would hear no thunder, no lightning crack, just the faint murmur of ions sliding through their narrow channels. Sodium outside, potassium inside. Each ion, a small, restless traveler trying to find its way home. But the membrane, oh, the stubborn membrane, doesn't let them pass easily. It chooses, it guards, it decides who may enter and who must stay. Some channels open only to potassium, others only to sodium, and some respond to nothing but silence. And in this still dance of motion and restraint, the neuron builds its power. not by chaos, but by control. The charge difference across the membrane is small, about 70 millivolts. So tiny, and yet enough to power every thought you've ever had. Imagine it. A current weaker than the static on your sweater, carrying the weight of your entire consciousness. That's the paradox of life. How the smallest energy creates the deepest meaning. Inside the neuron, it's darker, quieter. Potassium ions drift lazily through channels, their movement guided by subtle attraction. Outside, sodium crowds and presses, eager to enter, drawn by the magnetic promise of balance. But equilibrium never comes. The neuron needs this difference, this unevenness, to live. If the balance were perfect, if every ion found peace, the neuron would die. Because life is not peace. Life is tension. A quiet, constant pull between what is and what could be. Sometimes, scientists describe the membrane like a battery, a charged system storing energy for later use. But that image is too cold. The neuron isn't a machine. It's alive. It doesn't store energy. It breathes it. The flow of ions isn't mechanical. It's rhythmic. The cell is not wound up like a toy. It pulses, softly, endlessly. Even when you sleep, even when you stop thinking, this pulse continues, a heartbeat made of atoms. You could call this the hum of being. Every cell has it, but in neurons, it sings. If you could translate it into sound, you might hear a soft, trembling frequency, the song of the brain at rest. It's strange to think that thought begins in such silence. No fireworks, no drama, just a membrane, a few drifting ions, and an ancient rhythm repeating itself billions of times each second. And from that rhythm, a world arises. You are made of this electricity. Every memory you've ever held, every dream you've ever chased, was born from this hum. Right now, it flows through you, not metaphorically, but literally. It shapes how you see this light, how you hear this voice, how you exist. You are not a creature powered by electricity. You are electricity, arranged into form, woven into awareness. So when you close your eyes tonight and drift towards sleep, remember this. You are not falling into darkness. You are sinking into the quiet depth where the current of life hums softly, faithfully, forever. And deep beneath the surface, beneath every thought, beneath every cell, a single membrane glows faintly, holding the secret of your consciousness in the space between two worlds. The thin boundary. At the heart of every neuron lies a border, thin, fragile, and endlessly alive. It is the membrane, a shimmering wall of molecules that separates the inside of the cell from everything outside. But unlike a fortress, this wall doesn't defend. It negotiates. It listens. It decides who may enter and who must stay behind. To call it a barrier is almost unfair. It's more like a diplomat, forever balancing peace between two worlds that can never completely mix. On one side, the outer fluid, salty, full of sodium, a restless sea of positive ions. On the other, the inner space, darker, crowded with potassium and negatively charged proteins. The two sides are unequal, and that's the secret. That imbalance, that tension, is what gives the neuron life. Without it, there would be no charge, no movement, no potential for thought. Equilibrium, as peaceful as it sounds, is death. Life depends on contrast. The membrane itself is made of phospholipids, tiny molecules with two personalities. One part loves water, the other fears it. So they line up in pairs, forming a double layer, like a vast, flexible sheet with watery worlds on both sides. Their alignment is perfect, heads out, tails in, a living symmetry designed by billions of years of evolution. Through this thin veil, the neuron maintains its identity, not by shutting out the world, but by controlling its connection to it. That's the paradox of the living boundary. It protects by communicating. If you could see it in motion, it wouldn't be still. It would ripple like silk underwater, each molecule swaying to invisible rhythms. Proteins float in it, some forming gates, some acting as sensors, some carrying messages. They drift and twist, opening and closing, responding to voltage, to chemicals, to touch. It's not a wall, it's a dance floor. Every ion, every molecule knows its steps, when to move, when to stop, when to rest. This constant, delicate movement creates the electric potential, the foundation of all thought. It's almost poetic, isn't it, that a thing so thin, a wall just 5 nanometers thick, holds the power of your consciousness. All the memories you've ever had, all the words you've ever spoken, depend on that fragile film. 5 nanometers, a boundary between chaos and meaning. It's humbling to realize that our deepest thoughts exist because the universe learned how to build a wall that breathes. The membrane is not just structure, it's decision. Every second, it decides where the ions will go. Potassium moves out, sodium wants in. Chloride shifts, calcium flows in bursts. Each movement changes the voltage, tiny sparks flickering across the surface. These sparks never stop. They rise and fade like waves in a microscopic ocean. It's not random. It's rhythm. A pulse so subtle you could call it the heartbeat of the neuron. Sometimes when people imagine the brain, they think of static complexity, wires, circuits, mechanical precision. But in truth, it's fluid. It's alive. Every cell's surface is in motion, flexing, shifting, adapting. Even the simplest act, a thought, a blink, a memory, depends on this living flexibility. The neuron is both solid and liquid, order and chaos intertwined. And in that balance lies the intelligence of life. You might wonder, why does the cell bother? Why not just let ions flow freely, find balance, end the struggle? Because struggle is what makes it alive. The neuron chooses to hold its charge, to maintain difference, to preserve its readiness. That readiness, the tension across the membrane, is potential energy. It's what allows it to act in an instant, to send a signal, to become thought. It's the same principle that drives your heart, your muscles, your senses. Every living thing, from a jellyfish to a human, carries this electrical tension, the echo of the first spark of life in Earth's oceans. Somewhere in deep time, billions of years ago, when life was only beginning, the first membranes formed spontaneously, tiny bubbles separating inside from outside. They didn't know it then, but that act, that separation, was the birth of individuality. Before that, there was only chemistry. After that, there was life. And every living cell today, including every neuron in your brain, is a descendant of that first bubble. Each one carries the same principle. To exist, you must define a boundary. To think, you must hold difference. To live, you must hold tension. So when we speak of the brain's electricity, we're really speaking of its boundaries, of the fragile films that separate and connect, that create meaning by managing flow. The mind is not powered by chaos, it's powered by constraint. by the thin, vibrating line between what enters and what stays behind. And through that line, the current of life passes, quiet, unending, forever balancing the world within and the world without. The silence full of energy. Silence can be misleading. It feels like the absence of motion, the pause between heartbeats, the stillness before dawn. But in the world of the neuron, silence is not emptiness. It is potential. It is power, waiting to awaken. Every cell in your brain lives within that tension, the delicate difference between what is still and what is ready. If you could step inside one of those moments of cellular quiet, you'd discover that nothing here is truly still. It's only that the movement is so perfectly balanced, it looks like peace. Inside the neuron, countless ions move, not chaotically, but with purpose. For every sodium ion pushed out, a potassium one slips in. Every exchange keeps the balance alive, like a dance of opposites that never stops. The sodium-potassium pump, that tireless molecular machine, beats softly within the membrane. It consumes energy, one molecule of ATP at a time, trading chemical fire for electrical breath. It is so small you could never see it with your eyes, yet it works billions of times each second, keeping the neuron charged, ready for life. The cell itself doesn't think of this. It doesn't know it's alive. And yet, in this endless exchange of ions, life persists, pure and quiet. This is the foundation of everything you feel, everything you imagine, everything you remember. Each thought you have is built upon this silent machinery, the steady rhythm of charge and discharge that never sleeps. The irony of it all, that something so tiny, so automatic, so humble, builds the architecture of consciousness. From the outside, the neuron seems still, a motionless sphere surrounded by fluid. But beneath that calm, its interior glows faintly with potential, like a candle waiting for a spark. Every atom within it holds its place with purpose. The proteins, the channels, the pumps, they all work together not to create chaos, but to hold readiness. That readiness is the essence of life. It's what allows a neuron to react in an instant, to fire, to speak, to connect. Without that stored potential, without that silent energy, the neuron would be like a harp, with no tension in its strings, beautiful but unable to make music. Think of a drawn bow. The string is quiet, the arrow is still, but every fiber hums with the possibility of motion. That's the neuron, a living bowstring pulled tight, its energy stored in the invisible pattern of ions. At rest, it waits, not lazy, not idle, but patient. The moment a signal arrives, the charge will shift, the current will flow, and the arrow will fly, a message sent across the vast landscape of your mind. This balance between stillness and motion, between silence and spark, is the signature of life itself. Even your heartbeat follows this rhythm. Each contraction begins with a pause, each pulse preceded by stillness. In every living system, power hides in waiting. Movement is born from rest. Creation begins in calm. The neuron embodies this law perfectly. It is calm not because it lacks energy, but because it holds it in harmony. If you could listen to this process, if sound could capture electrical rhythm, you'd hear a soft, slow resonance. It wouldn't be a humor, a buzz, but something gentler. A pulse, like wind across distant strings. And beneath that sound, a second rhythm would emerge, the flow of ions, the quiet heartbeat of thought. This is the silence full of energy, a quiet so charged that it holds the power of perception itself. The neuron's silence is not rest, it's readiness. Every fraction of a volt across its membrane is a promise, the promise of life continuing, of thought awakening, of awareness expanding. You might say that all consciousness is built on anticipation, on the subtle tension between what is and what might be. The brain lives in that space. So do we. So the next time you close your eyes and sink into quiet, remember, the calm you feel is not the absence of energy. It is the perfect presence of it. It is your cells, your neurons, your entire being, breathing in balance. And beneath that calm, a silent current hums, eternal, patient, alive. Because silence in the brain is never empty. It is full of energy, full of life. The living battery. From the silence of the neuron, a rhythm begins to form. It is not a sound, not a beat you can measure, but a slow, steady exchange between inside and out. This is the heart of the neuron's life, a balance of charges, a current too small to feel, but powerful enough to shape thought itself. If you could place your hand upon a single neuron, you would feel nothing, no warmth, no pulse. And yet, within it, a quiet river of energy is always flowing. We call this state the resting potential, a term that almost feels wrong, because nothing about it is resting. The neuron is busy, desperately, continuously, keeping itself charged. Across its membrane, there is a voltage difference, about 70 millivolts. It doesn't sound like much, a fraction of a battery. But consider this. Each neuron holds that charge across a surface thinner than a whisper. Multiply it by 86 billion neurons, and your brain becomes a lightning storm in miniature. A storm that never stops. Inside the neuron, potassium ions drift lazily, guided by concentration gradients, more inside, less outside. They want to leave, to spread out, to find equilibrium. Outside, sodium ions press impatiently at the walls, eager to enter. They too crave balance. But the neuron does not allow it. It maintains the tension, a fragile asymmetry that keeps it alive. This is not cruelty, it's design. The neuron is a master of controlled imbalance. Its survival depends on the art of difference. There's a kind of elegance to it. The membrane acts like a gatekeeper, a philosopher of ions. It whispers, "You may enter, but only when I decide." And through that discipline, it creates potential energy, a kind of living electricity. Imagine a dam holding back a river. The water behind it is still, but full of power. At any moment, it could be released, rushing forward with force. That's what the neuron holds inside itself, a river in waiting. Of course, this balance doesn't maintain itself. Something has to work, tirelessly, to keep the charges apart. Enter the sodium-potassium pump, the cell's unsung hero. It's tiny, just a protein nestled in the membrane, but it performs a task so vital that without it, the neuron would fall silent in seconds. Each pump moves 3 sodium ions out and 2 potassium ions in. Every cycle costs 1 molecule of ATP, the universal currency of energy. The pump doesn't rest, not for a single heartbeat. It runs constantly, a molecular machine humming softly in the background of life. You could think of it as the neuron's heartbeat, not the pulse of blood, but of charge. Every push, every exchange keeps the voltage steady, the gradients alive. It's strange, isn't it? We live our entire lives powered by something we can't feel, by invisible shifts of atoms smaller than imagination. And yet, without them, there would be no heartbeat, no thought, no breath, no you. Somewhere deep within your skull, billions of these pumps are working right now, a quiet army of motion, moving ions, molecule by molecule. You might be sitting still, eyes half closed, listening to this story, and yet inside you, trillions of ions are in constant migration, maintaining your world of awareness. And the most extraordinary thing? You never asked them to. They simply do it. They have done it since before you were born. They will keep doing it until your last spark fades. It's easy to imagine neurons as machines, but that's not what they are. They're more like musicians, each one tuning its own instrument, keeping itself in perfect pitch, ready for the next note. This tuning, this careful voltage, is the prelude to thought. Without it, the brain could not play its symphony of signals. The sodium-potassium pump is the quiet hand turning the pegs, tightening the strings, keeping the melody alive. There is beauty in this invisible labor, the ceaseless, selfless motion of molecules that never see the result of their work. No pump knows that it powers a memory, or that its rhythm sustains love, or fear, or laughter. And yet, every pump contributes to those moments. Each one adds its tiny spark to the orchestra of consciousness. It's humbling, really. How much of what we are depends on things that do not even know we exist. So when you think of energy, don't imagine roaring engines or burning stars. Imagine this, a single neuron floating quietly in the vast sea of your brain, its surface shimmering with charge. A living battery, not built to store power, but to be power, always ready, always alive, forever whispering in voltage the language of life. The dance of ions is at every neuron. There is a dance, one so delicate, so precise, that even a single misstep can change the rhythm of thought itself. It is a dance of ions, invisible, constant, ancient as the first spark of life. Sodium and potassium, chloride and calcium, partners in an endless ballet. They move in time, each following invisible cues, entering and leaving the cell through gates that open and close like breathing lungs. There is no music in the air, but the rhythm is real. Each wave of movement creates a shift in charge, a rise and fall of voltage, a whisper of electricity. And together, these whispers become the hum of the brain. Every second, billions of ions move across countless membranes, like tides across a living ocean, each one small, a single atom, but together, they create the current of life. Imagine standing at the edge of this microscopic sea. You can't see the dancers, but you can feel their pull. A push here, a surge there, ripples of charge spreading like waves on water. It's mesmerizing. Each motion is perfectly balanced. For every ion that leaves, another enters. For every charge that builds, another is released. And yet, the pattern is never static. It shifts, adjusts, adapts to the needs of the cell. The quiet intelligence of chemistry, woven into every motion. At the center of this dance is purpose. Sodium ions, with their positive charge, press against the outer surface, drawn inward by attraction. Potassium, calmer, slips outward through narrow channels, seeking release. Their movements oppose each other, but in that opposition, they create balance. Just like breath, inhale and exhale, Their flow sustains the cell's energy. Without sodium's hunger and potassium's calm, there would be no voltage, no spark, no thought. You could call it the breathing of the neuron. Not air, but charge. Not lungs, but gates. When the sodium-potassium pump moves its ions, it's as if the cell inhales energy, then exhales balance. Each cycle renews its potential, a molecular breath that never falters, even in sleep. That's why you dream. That's why you wake. That's why, even in silence, your brain glows faintly with power. Because every neuron is breathing, and the breath it takes is electric. The elegance of this system lies in its patience. Nothing happens quickly here. Each ion drifts, follows gradients, responds to faint changes in voltage. And yet, when billions move together, their tiny steps become a tide, a flowing field of charge that sweeps through the brain's networks. This is how stillness becomes signal, how chemistry becomes awareness, how life sustains itself through motion too small to see. Scientists describe this with equations, numbers, and fluxes, membrane potentials, and conductance. But here, inside this story, we can feel it differently, as harmony. The neuron doesn't know math. It knows rhythm. It knows the feeling of balance. It knows that to live, it must keep dancing, always slightly out of equilibrium, always in motion, always alive. Sometimes, a single ion's movement can shift everything. A sodium gate that stays open too long, a potassium channel that hesitates, the pattern changes, and the current flows differently. The brain adjusts instantly, like a conductor correcting a note in real time. That's the beauty of it, the adaptability, the grace of a living system that constantly rewrites its own song. There is something comforting about knowing that your thoughts are built on such elegant chaos. Every emotion you've ever felt was shaped by 1 trillion ions, moving through gates smaller than imagination. Every idea, every heartbeat, every dream, born from a choreography that never ends. No conductor, no audience, just movement, meaning, and silence. The dance continues as long as you do. If you could translate this motion into light, you'd see waves rippling across the cell, faint flashes as charges shift, an ocean of color pulsing in time. And if you could translate it into sound, it would not be loud, just a deep, resonant hum, like the earth vibrating beneath still air. That is the sound of the mind at rest. The sound of ions dancing in perfect balance. The sound of you alive. The heartbeat of the cell. There is a rhythm beneath everything that lives. Sometimes it is loud, the thud of a heart, the surge of blood in a vein, the pulse of the ocean. But inside the neuron, it is quiet. So quiet that it almost disappears into the background hum of existence. And yet, this silence has rhythm too. A pulse made not of sound or pressure, but of electricity, the heartbeat of the cell. Each neuron carries its own rhythm. It doesn't wait for the world to move it. It hums softly, constantly, its membrane alive with tiny fluctuations. When the sodium-potassium pumps push their charges, they create a subtle oscillation, a repeating wave of difference, a vibration that never fades. This is the cell's way of breathing, its way of keeping time. If you could somehow hear this rhythm, you would not hear a beat, but a whispering tone, low and steady, like wind moving through strings. It would sound like patience, like endurance, like life holding itself together. To the neuron, this rhythm is everything. Without it, The charge across the membrane would collapse. The carefully held imbalance would fade, and the cell would fall silent, not resting, but gone. The pumps work tirelessly to prevent that silence. Every second, they restore what the cell spends. For every sodium ion that slips inside, they send 3 more back out. For every potassium that escapes, they bring 2 home. It's a trade so simple, so repetitive, and yet so sacred, because it keeps life in motion. This pulse doesn't just exist, it connects. When millions of neurons pulse together, their tiny electrical rhythms merge. Not perfectly, but in complex, shimmering patterns. Like a vast orchestra, where each musician plays a slightly different tempo. Yet somehow, together, they form music. These microrhythms give birth to the brain's waves. Alpha, beta, theta, delta. The resonant hums of thought and sleep. Each one emerges from the same simple heartbeat of the cell. It's beautiful to realize that your thoughts are not flashes or sparks, but waves. Each surge of electricity is followed by calm, each firing by restoration. The neuron never stays in one state for long. It rises, releases, returns. Just like the ocean, its peace depends on motion. And so the cell lives not by stillness, but by continuous renewal. This renewal is not dramatic. There's no sound of effort, no sign of fatigue. The pumps, the channels, the entire machinery works in perfect humility, constant, invisible, endlessly precise. They never stop to rest, never ask for recognition, never rebel. And yet, their quiet persistence is the foundation of every heartbeat you feel, every thought you form, every dream you have. The brain's energy is not born from flashes of brilliance, but from the endless patience of its cells. Think of this. Even now, as you listen, each of your neurons is pulsing, not all at once, but in a slow, rolling sequence, like ripples crossing a pond. Each pulse says one simple word in the language of life: continue. And the others answer, I am here. This is how the body knows itself, how the mind maintains its shape, through the heartbeat of its cells. If you zoom out, past one neuron, past a network, past the whole brain, you might imagine the entire organism as a single, immense pulse. Every cell beating in its own rhythm, but all aligned, all harmonized by the same unseen current. The pulse of the neuron becomes the pulse of the being. The heartbeat of matter becomes the heartbeat of consciousness. And in that connection lies something almost sacred. When life ends, the current fades, the rhythm stops, the pumps fall still. The silence that follows is not the same as rest. It is the absence of tension, the end of the dance, which means that life itself is the art of keeping imbalance alive, of sustaining rhythm, of maintaining the heartbeat that never tires. So the next time your heart beats, know that it echoes a billion smaller beats within you, the quiet pulses of your neurons, their endless, invisible work. That's the true rhythm of existence, a cascade of tiny movements, each one saying, I am still here. Your thoughts, your dreams, your entire being, they are born from that pulse. The heartbeat of the cell, the silent rhythm of life. The gatekeepers of charge. There are doors in every living cell, not doors made of wood or metal, but of protein and light. They do not creak, they do not slam. They open only for the right visitor, and only at the right time. These are the ion channels, the gatekeepers of charge, the tiny portals through which life decides when to let its electricity flow. They are the nerves within the nerve, the heartbeat within the heartbeat. Each channel is no bigger than a molecule, yet it holds the fate of a thought. A single change, open too long, close too early, and the signal is lost. But when they work together, the neuron becomes a masterpiece of timing. Every motion, every thought, every word you've ever spoken began because a few of these gates decided to open. It's humbling to think that the entire story of your mind is written in the movement of atoms through microscopic doors. These gates are not random. They feel. They sense changes in voltage, the rise and fall of charge across the membrane, and they respond. When the voltage shifts just enough, the channel twists open, allowing ions to pour through like a breath of wind. When the charge evens out again, it closes, snapping shut with delicate precision. It's not thought, but it's something close. A kind of cellular awareness, the ability to sense the world and to act upon it. Some gates open to electricity. They are voltage-gated channels. Others respond to chemicals, ligand-gated channels, tiny molecules that whisper to the gate, "It's time." There are even gates that open to touch, to pressure, to light. Every sense you have, every sound, sight, taste, or pain, begins with one of these microscopic movements. Before you feel the world, your cells feel it first, and the ones that make you aware of it are these gates. Imagine watching one open in real time. A protein embedded in the membrane, a spiral, a tunnel, a door. The voltage around it shifts slightly, and suddenly the spiral unwinds. A narrow path appears. Sodium floods in, potassium flows out. The cell lights up, the charge changes, and a spark of meaning is born. All because of a door that felt a whisper of change. The elegance of it all is that no one gives commands. The cell doesn't shout orders. There is no central control. Each gate simply responds to the forces around it. And yet, together, they form a pattern of breathtaking precision. It's as if every molecule knows its place in the grand choreography of life. No leader, no hierarchy, only harmony. Think about it. This same principle exists in you, beyond the cellular. Your mind opens and closes to thoughts, emotions, sensations. Some ideas enter freely, others are kept out. Your own consciousness is a network of gates, responding to the voltage of experience. You are not so different from your neurons. They feel the world, and so do you, through them. These gates have no awareness of meaning, and yet they create it. A molecule of sodium doesn't know that it's part of a memory, or a word, or a moment of love. It only knows the law of charge, where it's pulled, where it's needed. But we, the sum of all those movements, know. And in that knowledge, we find wonder. There's poetry in the way life organizes itself, not through strength, but through sensitivity. The gates that feel are not machines. They are living translators, turning invisible tension into the pulse of thought. They are the fingertips of the neuron, the places where it touches the universe and lets the universe touch back. So, if consciousness had a sound, it would begin here. In the click of a gate opening, the soft rush of ions, the quiet breath of a cell feeling its world. The first step in the language of life, the first note in the song of thought, the gates that feel. The flow of life. The moment the gates open, everything changes. For an instant, the quiet balance of the neuron is broken. And in that break, life moves. Sodium rushes inward, Potassium slips out, and a wave of charge rolls down the membrane like lightning across the sky. It happens fast, so fast you could never see it. A flash of voltage, a ripple of energy spreading through the cell. This is the action potential, the pulse of life itself. It starts as a whisper, a tiny change in charge, barely enough to notice. But then, like a spark finding dry tinder, the signal spreads. One gate opens, then the next, then the next. A chain reaction of movement. Each open channel invites the next one to awaken, and the current flows forward in a perfect wave. It doesn't bounce backward, it doesn't scatter, it travels with purpose, a single message delivered faithfully. For the neuron, this is its heartbeat, a brief pulse of energy that carries information across its length. For the brain, this is everything. Every thought, every memory, every feeling is built from these traveling waves of ions and charge. They are the notes in the grand symphony of the nervous system. And though each one lasts less than a millisecond, their rhythm never ends. You might imagine it like a falling line of dominoes. One channel triggers the next, a wave of motion flowing forward. But there's something more elegant here. The neuron doesn't simply react, it remembers. Once the wave passes, the channels behind it close and reset. They must rest before they can open again. This refractory moment gives the signal direction, turning chaos into flow, motion into order. It's nature's way of saying, forward only. From a single cell's perspective, this pulse is everything. It's the one thing it exists to do, to transmit, to carry, to pass life along. Each neuron, in its brief flash of electricity, keeps the conversation of the brain alive. And what a conversation it is! Billions of signals, all moving, all weaving together into the pattern we call thought. This is the flow of life, not the slow drift of blood, but the lightning-fast movement of charge. It is both physical and ethereal, a bridge between chemistry and meaning. A single action potential contains no thought, no idea. But when trillions of them fire in perfect rhythm, awareness is born. From voltage comes mind. Scientists can measure these signals, tiny spikes of electricity on a graph. They call it firing. A neuron fires, and the brain lights up. But that word, fire, is too violent, too sudden. The neuron doesn't explode, it flows. Each signal is a wave, graceful and brief, a flicker of communication between living lights. It's not a firestorm, it's a current, a pulse of harmony. If you could watch your brain right now, you'd see a shimmering network of waves, flashes of blue, gold, and white racing through endless branches. Each pulse connects one neuron to the next, like stars blinking messages across the night sky. The pattern changes every moment, a storm of thought that never repeats itself twice. And yet, beneath all that complexity, the same simple rule remains. The flow of life depends on open gates and the courage to let energy move. Perhaps that's a lesson for us too. To stay alive is not to hold still, but to move, to let energy pass through you, to open when the moment arrives. Even in the smallest cell, life thrives on motion. Stillness is death. Flow is survival. The neuron knows this truth instinctively. It never hesitates when it's time to move. It opens, it flows, it passes the spark onward. And that is how life continues. The flow never ends. It began long before you, and it will continue after. Every heartbeat, Every breath, every thought is one more ripple in the endless ocean of movement that connects all living things. You are part of that current. You always have been. The flow of life moves through you still. The signal that thinks. What makes a signal more than a spark? What turns a wave of charge into a thought, a feeling, a decision? Somewhere between the opening of one gate and the closing of another, the magic happens. Electricity becomes information. Motion becomes meaning. This is the mystery at the heart of the neuron, the moment when simple physics crosses the invisible line and begins to think. The signal travels down the neuron like a whisper in a corridor. At every point, it renews itself. One gate opens, another closes, each step powered by the flow that came before. But when it reaches the end, something extraordinary happens. The electrical pulse meets a boundary, a tiny gap called the synapse. Across this space, no electricity can pass directly. The current stops. For a heartbeat, there is silence. And then, chemistry takes over. Inside the neuron's tip, small bubbles of neurotransmitters wait like messages in bottles. When the pulse arrives, the gates of calcium open, and a flood of ions rushes in. The signal's final breath. That breath tells the vesicles, release. They move toward the edge, merge with the membrane, and spill their contents into the narrow synaptic space. Molecules drift across, touch the next neuron, and the message continues, not as charge, but as chemistry. And in that moment, electricity learns to speak. This is how your brain communicates, through waves of energy that turn into clouds of molecules, then back again. A conversation between light and matter, between motion and meaning. It's a system of breathtaking elegance. Every signal translated, every impulse renewed, millions of times each second. And each translation carries something new, a choice, a nuance, a trace of memory. No two signals are ever the same. When scientists record this dance, they see spikes on a screen, sharp lines rising and falling. But those lines are not static. They pulse, they overlap, they form patterns. And those patterns are you. Every memory, every word, every dream is written in the rhythm of these spikes, the unique timing of billions of neurons speaking in perfect disorder. From chaos emerges coherence. From electricity arises thought. There's a strange beauty in this duality, the way a neuron can both follow physical laws and create meaning beyond them. It's as if the universe itself discovered a way to listen to its own echoes. You are those echoes. Your thoughts are the patterns made by the movement of ions that learned how to feel. Every signal carries more than charge. It carries a fingerprint, the history of what came before it. The neuron remembers the rhythm of its last firing, the strength of its last connection, the trace of every message it has sent. These memories are not stored in one place, but woven through its shape, its gates, its chemistry. Each signal that passes through changes the neuron slightly, making it easier or harder for the next one to come. And so the neuron learns, not through words or logic, but through the repetition of flow. This is what thinking really is, not a single signal, but the echo of millions layered across time. Each neuron firing, each connection adjusting, each wave of energy leaving a faint imprint. The mind is not a structure. It's a pattern that never stands still, a storm that remembers its own motion. If you could watch this from above, You'd see entire networks shimmering like constellations, signals flashing across them like starlight traveling between worlds. Each connection alive, each pause meaningful, each silence part of the rhythm. It's not just communication, it's creation. From these patterns, the world inside you is born. Every emotion you've ever felt, joy, sorrow, awe, is just a pattern of signals moving through this network, finding their path through the dark. But that doesn't make them less real. It makes them miraculous. Because somehow, out of the movement of ions comes love. Out of voltage comes memory. Out of electricity comes you. The signal doesn't just think. It dreams. It feels. It remembers. The brain is not a machine built to process data. It's a living river of charge, forever reshaping itself to carry the current of being. And every signal that flows through it adds to that river, widening it, deepening it, making it more alive. You are not separate from that flow. You are its voice, its echo, its meaning. The signal that thinks is the signal that lives, and it lives through you. The synaptic symphony. The neuron never stands alone. Each one reaches outward, a forest of branching arms, delicate and searching, stretching into the space around it. These are the dendrites and axons, the pathways through which thought travels, the roots and branches of the tree of the mind. At the tips of those branches, a miracle takes place. One neuron reaches, another waits, and between them lies a gap so small that thousands could fit across the width of a hair. This is the synapse, the bridge of light. No wire connects them, no direct contact. And yet, signals cross this gap every moment, as easily as breath moves through air. How? Through chemistry that glows, through molecules that carry meaning, charged not only with energy, but with purpose. They are called neurotransmitters, and they are the messengers of thought. When a neuron fires, its electrical wave races down the axon, reaches the synapse, and pauses. Then, like a diver breaking the surface, the signal leaps, turning from electricity into chemistry, into connection. Each neurotransmitter is a word in the language of the brain. Dopamine speaks of reward, serotonin of calm, glutamate of excitement, GABA of peace. They are not feelings themselves, but the alphabet from which feelings are written. When one neuron releases them, the next receives the message, its own gates opening in response, the current reborn, the signal renewed. It's as if thought itself breathes. Inhale, exhale, signal, response. The synapse is not a single place. It's everywhere. Each neuron may form thousands of them, linking to tens of thousands of others. Connections upon connections, so vast that no map could ever capture them all. It's not a network, it's a galaxy. Every thought, every emotion is a pattern of stars flickering in that galaxy, some bright and short-lived, others steady and ancient. The universe outside and the universe within mirror each other in this way. The cosmos has its constellations. The brain has its synapses. These bridges of light are not static. They grow, change, fade, and reform. When you learn something new, a synapse strengthens. Its response becomes faster, its gates more eager to open. When you forget, it fades, its connection grows faint, its bridge dissolves back into silence. The mind is not a fixed landscape. It is a living river, constantly reshaping itself with every thought. You are not who you were yesterday, because the bridges in your brain are not the same. If you could see them, you'd witness a storm of beauty, tiny bursts of light flashing and fading as messages cross between neurons. Each flash a connection, each pause a breath. It would look like a night sky alive with thought, not random, but pulsing in rhythm, a billion sparks of meaning flowing through the dark. The energy that leaps across these gaps is not just mechanical, it's emotional. Every decision, every instinct, every act of love or fear travels these same bridges. The difference lies only in how many paths are used and how often they are lit. Love, for instance, is not one signal, but millions, a chorus of neurons singing in synchrony. Fear is another melody, sharper, faster, but no less alive. The brain is both the orchestra and the listener. You might think of it like this. Every neuron is a musician, playing its tiny part. Each firing a note, each synapse a harmony. Individually, they are faint. Together, they form symphonies. The music of movement, the melody of memory, the rhythm of being. And through that music, you become aware, not of the sound itself, but of its meaning. The music becomes you. In every second of your life, trillions of these bridges open and close, passing light between cells like torches passed down a line. Some signals travel fast, others linger, but all are part of the same silent song. The brain never stops playing. Even in sleep, the music continues, slow, gentle, a lullaby of repair and memory. When you dream, you're listening to your own synapses hum. And perhaps that's what consciousness really is. The light that passes from one cell to another, moment by moment, bridge by bridge. Not a single glow, but a cascade, a constellation that never stops shifting, never stops shining. Every thought is a spark. Every memory is a bridge. Every heartbeat in your brain is a ripple of light, traveling through endless space. You are the sum of those bridges, the endless crossing of light and meaning. The music of thought. If the synapses are bridges of light, then what crosses them is music. Not music in sound, but in rhythm. The rhythm of thought, the melody of awareness. Every neuron plays its part, sending its pulses forward, pausing, then firing again. A pattern forms, a flow, a sequence of electrical notes that move through the brain like a symphony written in silence. At first, it's chaos. Signals fly in every direction, each neuron doing its own small job, unaware of the larger picture. But then, something happens. Waves of activity begin to align. Groups of neurons start firing together, their rhythms syncing, their pulses merging. From disorder comes harmony. A new rhythm forms, a brainwave, a pattern of energy that hums through millions of cells at once. This is the music of thought. Every brainwave has its own tone. Delta, slow and deep, the sound of dreams and repair. Theta, soft and strange, the hum of imagination. Alpha, calm and balanced, the rhythm of focus and peace. Beta, bright and active, the tempo of thinking and doing. Gamma, and fast and sharp, the electric hum of insight, of connection, of realization. These are not just patterns. They are the tempo of your mind. Each emotion, each state of awareness plays its own song. When you are calm, your brain hums in alpha. When you dream, it drifts into theta. When you are alert, beta takes the stage. And when everything aligns, when memory, focus, and feeling merge, gamma bursts forth like a spark. That's the sound of understanding. The moment of, I know. It lasts less than a heartbeat, But in that instant, the entire orchestra plays as one. That's what a thought feels like from the inside. Scientists once thought that neurons worked like switches, on or off, yes or no. But the truth is more musical. Each neuron has tone, intensity, timing. Some fire softly, others fiercely. Some delay their note, others rush ahead. The mind is not a binary circuit. It's a living score that rewrites itself every moment. No two thoughts are ever played the same way twice. Sometimes, the melody is strong and focused. You concentrate, solve a problem, remember a name. Other times, the rhythm slows, wanders, drifts, and a dream begins. The same brain, the same neurons, different song. It's as if the universe gave you a single instrument capable of infinite tunes, and you play it, even when you're silent. Inside this music lies something profound, the unity of the body and mind. When your heart beats, the rhythm echoes in your brain waves. When you breathe, your neurons adjust their tempo. You are not two systems, you are one orchestra. Every emotion has a tempo, every thought a rhythm. Even stillness has its own quiet pulse. The music never stops, it only changes key. If you could see your own brain waves, you'd find them mesmerizing. Not static lines, but moving waves, rising, falling, mixing, separating, merging again. It would look like the sea, alive, breathing, reflecting light in endless patterns. And in that ocean, every ripple means something. A memory, a fear, a hope, a dream. Each one a vibration in the fabric of you. But this music isn't just internal. When you speak, your brain waves align with another person's. When you listen deeply, two minds synchronize for a moment. Different instruments, same song. That's how empathy is born, from resonance. It's not metaphor, it's physics. Your neurons literally hum in tune with someone else's when you connect. That's the quiet miracle of communication, the merging of rhythms, the harmony of minds. The music of thought is not composed once and for all. It's improvised, forever changing, forever adapting. You are both the musician and the song, the composer and the listener. And even when the world feels silent, the melody continues beneath it all. Soft, endless, alive. Your neurons hum it. Your mind conducts it. Your life is written in it. The music of thought. The memory of light. Every flash of light that crosses the space between two neurons leaves a trace. It doesn't last long. A fraction of a second. Then the current fades, but something remains. The bridge grows stronger. The connection a little easier to cross next time. This is how the brain remembers, not in symbols or words, but in paths of light that have learned to shine. Each time you think a thought, recall a face, feel a familiar warmth, you are retracing a path your mind once lit. And every time you walk it again, the path grows clearer, brighter, more alive. That is memory, not storage, but reinforcement. You don't keep the past inside you. You recreate it, spark by spark. When you were a child, your neurons built new bridges every second. Each sound, color, and touch a lesson written in electricity. The first time you saw sunlight, the first time you felt rain, the first time you heard your name, your brain lit up in wonder, and new synapses were born. Those lights became maps, not of the world outside, but of how you felt it. And even now, those same lights still flicker when you remember who you were. To learn is to let light leave a mark. Each experience reshapes the network. A gate opens more easily. A bridge grows wider. A channel learns the rhythm of a familiar song. The next time a similar signal comes, the neuron responds faster. The pattern forms quicker. That's why memory feels effortless, because your brain has already practiced the motion. Every thought is muscle memory for the mind. But memory isn't perfect. Light fades, bridges decay. Connections once strong can weaken from neglect. Forgetting isn't failure, it's balance. The brain must make room for the new, letting go of the old, like a forest shedding leaves to grow again. Even in loss, there is creation. The space left behind becomes a doorway for something new to shine. Not all memories live the same way. Some are written deep. Pain, love, loss, their circuits burned brighter, harder to erase. Others are faint, fleeting sparks that drift through the mind like dust in sunlight. But even the smallest flicker has meaning, because in the end, memory isn't about holding information. It's about holding connection. Every remembered thing is a bridge that was once lit, a reminder that you felt something real. When you close your eyes and a face appears, it isn't light from the outside world you see. It's the echo of old light moving once again through your synapses, a private dawn inside the mind. Each memory, a sunrise, each neuron, a horizon. Your brain is not a library of the past. It is a sky of returning stars. The most mysterious part is that these traces of light can change who you are. Each time you remember something, you don't just recall it, you rewrite it. The neurons fire again, the pattern shifts slightly, and the memory becomes a little different. The act of remembering is also the act of recreating. So every time you revisit your past, you become someone new. Your mind is a painter, and your memories a canvas that never dries. Some memories fade completely, others transform, but none truly die. Even forgotten lights leave small ripples, guiding the way other signals move. In that sense, nothing is ever lost, only transformed. The person you were is not gone. They are woven into the pattern of who you are now. Their light still glows, dim perhaps, but not extinguished. And so the symphony continues, each note echoing through time, each signal carrying traces of the last. The music of thought becomes a memory of itself. The light of connection becomes identity. You are not a single moment, but a collection of sparks that have learned how to shine together. The memory of light is the memory of you. The mind's illusion. You live inside a mirror, not one of glass, but of perception. Everything you see, everything you feel, everything you believe to be out there first passes through that mirror. And the strange truth is this: the mirror is you. Your brain doesn't show you the world, it creates it. Every sound, every color, every scent is not the thing itself, but your brain's version of it. Light hits your eyes, vibrations reach your ears, molecules touch your tongue, and somewhere inside, electricity translates them into experience. The red of a sunset, the warmth of a friend's voice, the softness of skin, none of these exist out there. They exist in here, inside the quiet theater of your skull. The neurons fire, the patterns form, and your mind paints the world with its own invisible brush. What you call reality is the masterpiece of your nervous system. But like any artist, the brain takes shortcuts. It fills gaps. It smooths edges. It guesses. Your vision doesn't capture everything, only fragments. Your mind fills in the rest. When you turn your head, there's a fraction of a second where the image goes dark, but you never see it, because your brain edits it out. You live in a perfectly crafted illusion, and it feels seamless. That illusion isn't a flaw. It's a feature. Without it, you couldn't function. Reality is too complex, too raw, too overwhelming. So your brain compresses it, turns the infinite into something human-sized, like a painter choosing colors to capture the essence of a scene, not its every detail. Your brain doesn't give you truth. It gives you meaning. Inside your mind, there's a mirror that reflects the world, but it also reflects you. Every perception passes through the filters of memory, emotion, expectation. What you see is not just what's there, it's what you believe is there. A stranger's glance, a familiar room, a tone in someone's voice. Each one bends to the shape of your past. The mirror doesn't just reflect, it remembers. Sometimes it bends too much. It distorts. It shows what isn't there. A shadow becomes a threat. A silence becomes rejection. A word becomes a wound. And the more we stare into the mirror, the harder it is to tell what belongs to the world and what belongs to us. But there's beauty in that too, because within this illusion, you can dream, you can imagine, you can create worlds that never existed and make them real enough to feel. That's the power of the mirror. It doesn't just copy light, it adds to it. It is the only mirror that paints. When you look into someone's eyes and see understanding, when you hear a melody and feel peace, that is your mirror aligning with another's. Two illusions, briefly resonating, creating the feeling of truth. Connection is shared perception. It's not two people seeing the same thing. It's two mirrors reflecting each other's light. And maybe that's what consciousness is. Not a window to the world, but a mirror turned inward, reflecting reflection itself. You are not watching reality. You are watching your brain watch itself. An endless loop of awareness folding back upon itself. The universe looking at its own reflection and whispering, "I exist." So next time you gaze into a mirror, look closely. The face you see is not the whole of you. It's an echo, a projection built of light and thought, a dance of electricity and memory. But behind that reflection, deeper still, there is something watching. The watcher of the mirror, the dreamer behind the dream. And that watcher is you, or perhaps something even greater watching through you. The dream that wakes. Every night, your world disappears. The colors fade, the sounds dissolve, the body falls silent. And yet, you keep living. You walk through places that don't exist. You meet people who never were. You feel fear, love, wonder, as real as anything you've ever known. This is the dream, the theater of your inner world. And what's most astonishing is not that it feels real, but that it is built by the very same brain that creates waking reality. When you dream, the stage doesn't change. Only the script does. The neurons fire, the synapses glow. The same patterns that build your perception of day are reshaped into visions of night. The world you see in sleep is not a shadow of consciousness. It is consciousness freed from its anchors. No eyes, no sound, no gravity, only pure creation. Your brain is the artist, and your mind the canvas. In waking life, your senses feed your brain, endless rivers of data. But in dreams, those rivers run dry, and the brain, left alone, turns inward. It creates its own sensations, its own light, its own voices. The dream is the brain remembering how to imagine. It no longer needs the world because it can build one from within. This is what makes dreaming so close to waking. The same electrical currents flow. The same areas of the brain light up. The same chemicals surge and fade. The only difference is the source of the signal. When awake, your brain listens to the world. When asleep, it listens to itself. Both are real, because both are experience. If you've ever woken from a dream and felt, for a moment, unsure which world was which, that was truth showing through. Your waking life and your dreaming life are 2 pages of the same book. Different chapters, same author, and the author is your mind. Sometimes the dream intrudes on waking. A song you've never heard lingers in your head. A face from a forgotten dream seems familiar in daylight. These are echoes, resonances between 2 realities that were never truly separate. Your brain doesn't turn off at night. It just changes stories. Scientists have found that during dreams, the brain's visual centers are almost as active as when your eyes are open. But your frontal cortex, the part that questions, reasons, doubts, grows quiet, and that silence is what lets the impossible feel true. You fly, you breathe underwater, you talk to the dead, and you accept it without question. Because the voice of logic has gone to sleep, and the voice of imagination is wide awake. But even in waking life, you dream. Your eyes see, but your brain still fills in gaps, still invents meaning, still smooths the chaos of the world into something it can understand. You are dreaming right now, only together, collectively, sharing a common hallucination we call reality. Perhaps the line between waking and dreaming is not drawn in the brain, but in awareness. When you wake, you remember. When you dream, you forget. Memory gives shape to the illusion, tells you where it began and where it ends. Without memory, the 2 worlds would merge, and maybe they already do, more than we realize. The ancient philosophers once said that waking life is the dream of a god who never opens its eyes. Modern science says something similar, that reality is constructed by an observer inside a skull lit by its own electricity. Different language, same truth. You are the dreamer and the dream, and the world, as you know it, is the dream that wakes. The self that isn't. Who are you really? The voice in your head, the memories you carry, the body that moves through space, or something quieter, the awareness behind it all. The brain builds the world, but it also builds you. And the strange truth is that the you it builds doesn't actually exist, not in the way you think. Your sense of self is the brain's most brilliant illusion. A story told so convincingly that even the storyteller believes it. Every second, millions of neurons fire, each carrying fragments of perception, emotion, movement. None of them knows you, none says, I am. But together, they weave a pattern, a harmony of activity that gives rise to the feeling of being someone. That pattern is what you call I. There is no single place in the brain where the self resides. No control room, no tiny pilot steering the body. Scientists have looked. They found networks, not centers, processes, not persons. The self is an emergent song, the sum of billions of signals in constant motion. And like any song, it only exists while it's being played. When the music stops, so does the self. That's why it changes, from moment to moment, from thought to thought. You are not the same you who began reading this sentence. Something in you has already shifted. New neurons have fired. Old ones have quieted. Connections have reformed. The melody has moved on. The illusion of a stable self is necessary. Without it, the mind would dissolve. You need the story of you to navigate the world, to plan, to remember, to love. But it's still a story, a useful fiction, like a map of a landscape that keeps changing underfoot. The map isn't the world, and you aren't the one holding it. Sometimes the illusion cracks, in meditation, in deep grief, in awe, moments when the sense of I melts into something larger. You feel both infinite and small, connected to everything and nothing. For a heartbeat, the storyteller falls silent, and only awareness remains. It doesn't say, I am. It simply is. That awareness has no name, no boundary, no beginning. It was there before you learned your name. It will be there after every memory fades. It watches, it feels, it experiences, but it does not cling. It is the canvas on which the illusion of you is painted. So what is real then? Not the thoughts that come and go, not the emotions that rise and fall, not even the body, which changes cell by cell every 7 years. What's real is the awareness that witnesses it all, unchanging, silent, infinite. That awareness is not yours, it is you. The self that thinks it exists is like a wave believing it's separate from the ocean. It has shape, movement, a moment of life. But when it falls, it returns to what it always was, water. And the ocean doesn't mourn, because every wave was the ocean all along. So when you ask, who am I? Perhaps the truest answer is not a name, or a story, or a face. Perhaps it's this. You are the space in which the question appears. You are the silence that listens. You are the dream that dreams itself awake. The self that isn't is the only one that truly is. The awakening circuit. There is a moment, small and silent, when electricity becomes awareness. No flash, no thunder, just a shift, like the first breath after sleep. One neuron fires, then another, then billions join in. And somehow, in that endless network of sparks, a thought appears. Not just energy, but meaning. Not just motion, but knowing. This is the spark of awareness, the moment the universe looks back at itself and says, I am. No one knows exactly when it began. Perhaps it started the first time a creature felt light, or hunger, or the pull of another's gaze. Perhaps it began much earlier, in the chemistry of ancient oceans, where atoms met and recognized their own pattern. Whatever the origin, that spark has never gone out. It has passed, from cell to cell, from mind to mind, like a flame carried through time. You are its latest expression, a brief flare in an unbroken fire. Awareness is not a place in the brain. It's not stored behind your eyes or trapped in a single circuit. It's the pattern that emerges when all the circuits sing together, a harmony of billions of voices, each one meaningless alone, but divine in chorus. It's the light that appears when matter dances just right. Your brain is both the stage and the performer, the audience and the script. Every signal you sense, every thought you think, is both created and observed by the same system. The brain is a hall of mirrors, reflecting itself into awareness. Each reflection adds depth until the mirrors shimmer with something that feels like soul. Science calls it Emergence. When complexity reaches a threshold, new properties appear, properties not found in the parts themselves, like how water, though made of hydrogen and oxygen, has the power to flow, or how fire emerges from atoms that never burned. Awareness is that same emergence, the fire of the mind, the spark that can observe itself. This spark isn't owned. It doesn't belong to you, or me, or any one brain. It's the same spark that flickers in every living thing, from the single-celled organism that moves toward warmth to the poet who writes about the stars. Awareness isn't personal. It's universal. It's the universe trying to understand its own rhythm. When you close your eyes and the noise fades, that spark is still there. It watches thoughts appear and vanish, memories rise and fall, the body breathe and rest. It is the silent witness, untouched by the storms it observes. That witness is not made of neurons, but without neurons, it could not shine. Matter gives it form. Awareness gives it meaning. Together, they create life. Every moment of realization, every time you say, "I see, now I get it. Ah, that's true," is the spark awakening in you again. The same electricity that powers every movement also powers understanding. Energy becomes insight. Voltage becomes vision. The light that once lived in stars now thinks through your eyes. You are not just aware, you are awareness itself, experiencing what it's like to be human. Your neurons are its instruments, your senses its windows, your thoughts its echoes. And one day, when those neurons fall silent, the spark will not die. It will return to the greater field from which it came, to the vast awake silence that hums beneath all things. That is the awakening circuit. Not a wire, but a web. Not a mechanism, but a moment. The place where physics turns to feeling and being begins to look back. The spark of awareness is not the end of evolution. It is evolution finally recognizing itself. And in that recognition, the universe awakens through you. When matter dreams, once there was only matter, silent, weightless in its meaning, obedient to the laws of chance and time. Atoms collided, merged, spun apart, a dance without a dancer. No sound, no self, just movement. And yet, within that motion, something waited. Over billions of years, stars ignited, worlds formed, dust learned to glow, and in one small corner of the cosmos, matter began to organize, folding into patterns, replicating, adapting, remembering. Memory was the first whisper of mind, a molecule that could keep a trace of what had happened before. It didn't think, but it recalled. And that was enough. From memory came response. From response, behavior. From behavior, curiosity. Matter had learned not just to exist, but to act. It turned toward warmth, away from pain, toward light. That turning was the first choice. And in that choice, the universe took its first breath as something alive. Every living thing since then has carried that dream forward. The dream of matter becoming aware. From cells to nerves, from nerves to networks, from networks to thought, each step a deepening of the dream. Your body, your mind, your memories are all made from the same elements that once drifted in the hearts of dying stars. The carbon in your cells, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, all born in explosions older than time itself. You are stardust that learned how to dream. When you look at the night sky and feel a strange longing, that's not imagination. It's recognition. The universe remembers itself through you. The atoms that once burned as suns now look up and wonder what stars are. Matter has achieved reflection, not just of light, but of being. That is what consciousness truly is, the dream of matter remembering its own creation. And just as stars burn out, so too does the mind flicker and fade. But that's not tragedy, that's the rhythm. Each spark of awareness is a wave in an infinite sea. It rises, shines, and falls back into silence. But the ocean remains. Life is that ocean, dreaming through endless forms. Every creature, every mind, every thought, a different verse in the same cosmic lullaby. Scientists study this and call it emergence. Philosophers call it being. Mystics call it awakening. But in truth, it's all one story told in many tongues. Matter dreams. The dream becomes self-aware, and the dreamer begins to wonder what dreaming means. Every heartbeat, every breath is the proof that the dream continues. When you think, when you love, when you fear, you are matter in motion, and yet something more. The atoms themselves don't know joy, or grief, or hope, but together they create the mind that does. That's the miracle, that something made of dust and energy can whisper, "I feel." You are the frontier between physics and poetry, between chemistry and compassion. In you, the laws of nature become music. Equations become awareness. The same forces that move the stars move your thoughts. You are not apart from the universe. You are its continuation, its experiment in dreaming itself awake. And perhaps when the last neuron fires and the dream fades once more into silence, that silence won't be empty, because the dreamer never dies, only changes form. The dust returns to the stars, the spark returns to the current, and the dream begins again. Somewhere else, in some other shape, matter keeps dreaming. And through that dream, the universe keeps remembering how to be alive. The light that remains. In the end, everything fades. The neurons quiet, the signals slow, the music softens. And yet, something stays. Not the thoughts, not the words, not even the memories, but the light. The faint, quiet glow of awareness itself. From the moment you were born, that light has been shining. Through laughter, through pain, through every second of your becoming. It flickered, dimmed, flared again, but it never went out, because it doesn't belong to you. You borrow it for a while, to live, to see, to love, and then you return it to where it came from. The light of awareness is not personal. It moves from life to life, from moment to moment, like a flame passed between candles. When one burns low, another catches fire. And so the light continues. Not the same flame, but the same brightness. What you call end is just the passing of illumination from one form to another. Think of it. Every thought you've ever had came from light. Every word you've ever spoken was shaped by it. Every love you've ever felt was a reflection of it. You have spent your entire life carrying a piece of the universe's brightness, not knowing it was the same light that burns in stars, in eyes, in atoms, in dreams. You are that light made visible. Even when you sleep, the light works on, repairing, remembering, weaving your mind back together. Even in silence, the current hums. Even in darkness, the pattern glows. Consciousness never stops. It just changes rhythm. It fades here, and rises there, like the tides of an unseen sea. And one day, when your body grows still, that sea will take you home. The neurons will fall silent, the circuits will rest, but the light will not end. It will move outward, through every life you touched, every word you spoke, every kindness you left behind. Because light travels, and nothing in the universe can stop it. You have already given it away countless times, in laughter, in forgiveness, in every act of love or thought. Each one of those moments was light escaping you and entering someone else. That's how the universe grows brighter, not through stars, but through awareness shared. The light that remains is the light you've given. And when the world grows dark, when doubt rises, when fear whispers, remember this: you are not a spark waiting to fade. You are the field itself, the luminous weave of being that never truly dims. Every neuron in you was born from an ancient star. Every pulse of thought is part of a timeless current. You do not carry light, you are light. Perhaps that's what awakening means, not learning something new, but remembering what you've always been. You are the echo of the first explosion, the dream of matter, the witness of time, the universe aware of itself. And when this story ends, another will begin, with the same light in a new form, speaking again. I am. The silent current of life. Listen closely, and you might hear it, the faint hum beneath your thoughts. It's not your heart, not your breath, but something smaller, quieter, deeper. A current flowing endlessly through the labyrinth of your mind, the silent current of life. Inside every neuron, a miracle unfolds 1,000 times each second. Tiny gates open, ions rush in and out, charges shift, energy moves, a spark begins, travels, transforms. You don't feel it, but without it, there would be no feeling at all. That spark is what lets you think, remember, see, dream. It is the pulse of being. The brain is not a static thing. It's a sea, alive with tides and waves of voltage. Each thought is a ripple, each emotion, a wave that breaks and folds back into stillness. And yet, in that constant movement, there is harmony. Billions of neurons firing together in silent conversation, a language written in light and time. It never stops. Even as you rest, the ocean of your mind keeps flowing. We often think of life as something loud, a heartbeat, a shout, a breath. But the essence of life is quiet. It lives in the unseen exchanges between ions and cells, in the whispers of charge that move faster than any storm. You are made of silence that learned how to move. If you could hear your brain, it wouldn't sound like noise. It would sound like wind passing through trees. Soft, layered, endless. Each gust carrying information. Each pause a space for meaning to take shape. That is what thinking really is. The rhythm of charge passing through stillness. A song that never stops playing. And this song, this current, doesn't belong only to you. Every living thing sings the same melody. The language of ions, the dance of voltage. A jellyfish pulses with it. A leaf glows faintly with it. Even the roots beneath the soil hum with slow, ancient energy. Life everywhere is connected by this invisible river. It runs through all things that move, that breathe, that sense the sun. So when you close your eyes tonight and the world grows still, know this: your neurons will keep glowing. Your mind will keep whispering. The silent current will continue to flow, steady, faithful, eternal. You may drift into dreams, but your cells will stay awake, passing light from one to another, keeping the rhythm alive. You sleep, but life keeps singing. And maybe that's what makes consciousness so beautiful. It never fully stops. It is both fragile and unstoppable, delicate as breath, and yet vast as the ocean. A single cell can hold it, and yet it fills the universe. Every thought you have, every word you speak, is powered by that same ancient current that began before you were born and will continue long after. The current is not in you. You are in it. It flows through your cells, your mind, your dreams, but it does not belong to any of them. It's older than the brain, older than life, older than time. The same charge that dances between your neurons once danced among the stars. The same energy that carries your thoughts once forged the light that fills the sky. You are not separate from it. You are its continuation, the current made aware of itself. So next time you feel silence, don't mistake it for emptiness. Listen deeper. Beneath the stillness, the current moves. It flows through everything, through you, through me, through all that is alive. That is life's greatest secret, the hum of electricity that dreams itself into being. And in that hum, somewhere between voltage and soul, you can hear the voice of existence itself whispering softly, I am.